John here, back again with another video, and for this video here, I'm going to talk about and review the last film on this sci-fi collection pack, and that is Westworld. Hope you can see it alright. But, yeah, really good movie, directed by Michael Crichton, yes. Famous author who brought us Jurassic Park, Congo, but he's also directed, a few films as well. I mean, Coma, really good movie with Michael Douglas. He also directed Runaway with Tom Selleck, which I do have, but I haven't seen the film yet. That film is on my to-watch list. But, yeah, so Michael Crichton, again, directed this movie. Now, the plot to the film here, so, takes place in the future, and they have this company that offers the vacation of the future in this amusement park where you have medieval world, you have Roman world, and you have, Westworld for $1,000 a day. And the vacationers get to experience life in the theme period, doing whatever she or he wants, interacting with the robots that inhabit the park. And our two main characters in the film, so I think the main guy is played by Richard Benjamin. And you also have, James Brolin in the film. And we follow these two main characters in the Westworld portion of the park. And soon enough, things start to happen where the robots are malfunctioning. And you have this character, the gunslinger, played by Yul Brynner. He's this cowboy, robot that is stalking our two main characters, but there's other portions of the park, like in Roman world and medieval world, where everything's starting to malfunction, the robots and the system, and they start terrorizing the guests, and that's the plot to this film here. And again, the film is written and directed by Michael Crichton. And to me, he did a really nice job directing the film. And I thought, he brought a cool vision to the film where, you have these different parks within a park. And every park, represents a different time period. And throughout the movie, it would cut between parks where you see the guests interact with their environment. And sometimes it would cut back to the insides of the park where the scientists are keeping tabs on the androids or the robots. So, I really enjoyed what Michael Crichton did with this film here. And it's definitely a precursor to what, you would see in Jurassic Park. I mean, when you take a look at the concept, with this film, you have robots that take over and terrorize the guests in this park. And if you take out the robots, put in dinosaurs. But again, I thought, Michael Crichton did a really nice job here directing, and something too that I thought about, because, at this time, this film came out in what, 73? Even at this time, they were still making serious westerns. I mean, you had guys like John Wayne still making these movies, Clint Eastwood coming up, and I'm sure, at this time, he had probably already made Dirty Harry, but, he had still made some westerns. So I wonder, what those guys, when they saw a little bit of this film, and Yul Brynner as the gunslinger, what they thought about this movie. And I doubt they ever saw it, but it's just one of those things that I thought about. Because, again, even at this time, they were still making serious westerns, with John Wayne and Clint and all those guys. So I wonder if they saw this movie and they're like, what are they doing? Are they making fun of us or what? But again, I really enjoyed the concept here. But the cast here, mainly follows these two characters. You have the main character of Peter, who's played by Richard Benjamin, and his friend John, who's played by James Brolin. And a lot of their time, is spent in Westworld, kind of getting caught up in the experience, being busted and stuff like that, bar fights and all that good old West stuff. Richard Benjamin, I thought he was okay in the film. I thought he was fine. If there's one thing that I could change in terms of casting, I would switch around the roles where James Brolin was our lead character. Again, Richard Benjamin is fine, he's okay, but I felt that between the two, James Brolin had more of a presence, especially knowing what would happen later. I definitely would like to have seen James Brolin as the lead. But again, going back to our main character, Richard Benjamin, he's okay. What's interesting about this guy, I was looking up his filmography and I'm like, what else has this guy done? Because haven't seen him before in other films. But he would actually go on to direct quite a few movies. He directed City Heat with Clint Eastwood and Burt Reynolds. He directed The Money Pit with Tom Hanks. My Stepmother's an Alien. And he also directed Mermaids. So, yeah, our lead character here would go on to direct quite a few projects. And you also have in this film Yul Brynner as the gunslinger, and to me, he's the highlight of the film. He definitely steals the show here. Definitely a precursor to what you would see in the Terminator. In fact, I think even Arnold has talked about this before. How for his performance in the first Terminator film, he was inspired by Yul Brynner in this movie. Because this gunslinger character, he's this android that is stalking our main two characters, and then when you get to the third act of the film, it's basically almost turns into a horror film where the gunslinger's going after our main character, and they're going over into the different sections of the park, and I thought that was really fun. But yeah, like I said, Yul Brynner definitely steals the show here as the gunslinger. Very good performance, very unflinching. There's even a couple of scenes where you would see the vision of the android, it's very like pixelated. So that's, definitely ahead of its time. And there's a couple of other people here in the cast. Dick Van Patten, he appears in the film for a little bit. But like I said, it's mainly our two characters, the main leads here. But like I said, if there's one thing that, if I could change about the casting, I would have James Brolin as the lead character. But, for the most part, the cast, to me, works. And, Yul Brynner steals the show for me. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the cast. The production value here, I really enjoyed. You could definitely see the work that was put into, creating these different parks. Now, if there's one thing that I can also say, and this is a very small nitpick too, that because throughout the film it would cut between different parks and you see different guests interact with their environment and stuff like that. But to me, I felt the more interesting environment was Westworld, and I wish that more time was spent in Westworld, and because it's, while it does follow the main two characters, a lot, but, there's some portions of the film I'm like, can we get back to Westworld? I want to see more of what is happening there. And again, it's a small nitpick, but it's just one of those things that I kind of wish that the film would have put more focus on. And I get, you want to explore what's happening over here in Roman world or medieval world, but I'm like, let's get back to Westworld a little bit. Let's catch up with what's happening with our two characters and, the trouble that they're getting into, because sometimes they would get busted or, they would get caught up in a bar fight, getting caught up in the experience of the environment. And then sometimes the gunslinger would show up and they would kill him, but then he would come back later. And one thing about the film is, while the guests are experiencing these different parks, you have the people that are operating the park. So, and sometimes they would fix up an android that, gets damaged, or one scene that I remember is where I forget which character, but one character gets bit by a snake, and they kill the snake, and they bring the snake back to the labs to fix. and it was a robot snake. It was an android snake. And I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. So again, I really enjoyed the production value, that everything was practical, from the sets to, the laboratories where they had to, where they would repair the androids and stuff. And especially, towards the end of the film, the third act, where again the gunslinger's pursuing our main character through, the different sections of the park and going through the different sets and the locations, I thought was really well handled. And it definitely, turns into sort of a horror movie, like a stalker movie. And some really cool practical effects too. I mean, there's a couple of moments in the third act, for example, where the main character throws acid in the gunslinger's face, and the acid is just burning away at his face, and you see like the circuitry underneath, and definitely, again, Terminator-esque. The Terminator before the Terminator. And then there's a scene later on where he sets the gunslinger on fire, and then the gunslinger comes back, and he's like, burnt pretty much head to toe, blackened, charred, and I really enjoyed that. So some good practical effects there, and throughout. The pacing. I mean, the film is not long, and it's about an hour and a half, and I really enjoyed the score here. But Westworld, at the end of the day, is a very good sci-fi picture. Definitely a nice appetizer to films like, The Terminator and Jurassic Park, and what they were able to achieve with those movies. Westworld is, again, a nice appetizer to what those movies are. And the cast here, is good. I mean, like I said, the only thing I would say is maybe James Brolin should have been the lead character. But again, that's kind of a small nitpick. Yul Brynner as the gunslinger, to me, he's the highlight of the film. He definitely steals the show here. Michael Crichton brought a really cool vision to the film, and I really liked the concept of the movie. And I really enjoyed the production value throughout, and some of the ideas, and the third act is really exciting. So, yeah, Westworld I definitely recommend. But that's it for now. Just want to say thank you for watching, and I will see you later.